I felt a little uncomfortable at night, so I took my temperature, 39.6, took some medicine, and planned to lie down. Then my phone rang. "I met you at the bar. Come over." The voice in the microphone was very noisy, and Sujaya's voice was drunk. I sighed, "But I feel a little uncomfortable. Come over if you're not dead." I changed my clothes and went out to take a taxi and took off the fever patch on my forehead before entering the bar. The medicine and the fever patch seemed to have little effect, and the temperature of my body was still frighteningly hot. The music in the bar pierced my eardrums and made my head ache dully. When I found Sujai, he was playing with the dice on the table with his head down, and there was a beautiful woman sitting on his left and right. I walked over and said to one of the girls, "Please get up." She looked at me with dissatisfaction. "Who are you?" I was speechless for a moment. In their words, I was Sujai's liquor. The girl knew how to read the expression on his face, and when she found that Sujai didn't take me seriously at all, she became more and more. "There are so many people who like but you are not even a chicken feather, and you act like a queen right away. Am I right? Sujai glanced at me, said nothing, picked up the wine glass and drank, and asked the girl, "What do you want to eat?" The girl's eyes rolled around. "I want to eat pecans with shells." Sujai ignored me completely and called the waiter. After a while, a plate of walnuts with shells was served. To eat the walnut kernel inside, you have to break the outer shell with your hands. The girl's delicate voice sounded again. I asked her to help me peel the walnuts. I want to eat them. I looked at Sujai. After Sujai raised his head and drank the wine in his hand, he stretched his arm on the girl's shoulders and played with her hair from time to time. He turned his head to look at me. His eyes were hazy with drunkenness. "Do you have anything to say?" I looked at him calmly. "Do you want me to peel it? Fuck. I don't know where his temper came from." He kicked the table angrily, and a few walnuts fell to the ground. Peel it with your hands, okay?" Under the deafening music and dazzling spotlights, I peeled it with my bare hands, bit by bit. The shell of pecans is much harder than the paper-skin walnuts on the market. My fingertips were scratched by the hard shell, and blood oozed out. I took a tissue and wiped the blood off, then continued. There were more and more tissues on the ground stained with my blood. The toasting and laughter on the booth gradually became quieter, and they all turned their eyes to me. My fingers were already bleeding. Sujai. I looked up. He was looking at me, but when I looked up, he turned his face away and took a sip of beer from the table. He pretended not to hear me. I called again, "Sujai." He didn't look at me. Very impatient. "Speak." "There are no tissues. Can you help me get a pack?" He suddenly smashed the wine glass in his hand on the table, turned his head and looked at me angrily. "Is that what you want to say?" I didn't understand where his anger came from, frowned, and looked at him in confusion. He gritted his teeth. "There are no tissues. Lick it yourself." Blood still seeped out from my fingertips, and I wiped it on the hem of my skirt. The white dress was instantly stained with red blood stains, which was charming and eye-catching. I heard the girl who originally asked for walnuts say, "Is she sick?" Then there was a bang. Sujai smashed the bottle next to him. Glass fragments and wine splashed all over the floor. The girl screamed in fear. What's wrong with you?" Sujai stood up with a dark face. "It's boring. Let's go." I didn't move. Sujai yelled at me. "Didn't you peel enough walnuts?" I stood up calmly, but the next second I was extremely dizzy and my eyes went black. I lost consciousness and heard a mocking voice in my ears. "Awesome! You are so feverish, and you are always here when I calls. Otherwise, you are the #1 bootlicker around I." 2. I don't blame them for saying that. Sujai never hesitated to say to his brothers in front of me, "I need a substitute to entertain myself." Every time this happened, they all turned their heads to look at me. I just sat quietly, not crying, making a fuss, or getting annoyed. I was willing to be a substitute. I was obedient around him, but Sujai also had times when he was annoyed with me. In the middle of the night, when it was raining heavily, he once left me on the roadside. "No matter how much you look like her, you are not her." "Don't bother me anymore," I said. "I will think of a way. You are sick." He drove away in a cloud of dust. I didn't go to see him for about 3 months after that. He appeared in front of me again in a rage. "Didn't you say you would think of a way?" I answered truthfully. "I was thinking, but I didn't expect it." He rudely dragged me into the car, accompanying me to a place. Since then, I have reappeared beside Sujai. One night, his friend called me. I passed out from drinking. When I arrived, Sujai was lying on the sofa with a pale face, as if he was not breathing, as if he was dead. With a buzz, my mind went blank. My tears did not stop until I could still feel his heart beating. He cried as if the was dead. "Don't worry, he just drank too much, not dead." But I was still worried. I still sent him to the hospital to check his heart. That day, I stayed with Sujai all night. He woke up before me and was looking at his phone. His brothers took a picture of me crying last night and posted it in the group to tease me. "Are you so afraid that I'll die?" Sujai asked me. I raised my hand to feel his heartbeat, one by one, clear and strong. Sujai said, "Brother, you're fine even if you get a new heart. You're lucky." My eyes dimmed in an instant. The heart beat clearly under my palm. This heartbeat once belonged to someone else. 3. When I woke up in the hospital, as expected, Sujai was not around. The nurse came to take my temperature, and it had dropped. The finger injured from peeling walnuts has been bandaged. During this period, Sujai did not contact me. A month later, his brother group suddenly started a bet. "How Man is coming back. Let's bet on how long Jian Shiyu, the substitute, can stay with I." 1 week. 1 month. 3 months. How Man is Sujai's white moonlight. I received a call from Sujai in the evening. Drive to the airport to pick someone up. When How Man saw me, she looked me up and down. "Your imitation is really poor. I actually let you follow him for so long." I drove quietly without responding to her. When the car was waiting for the traffic light, How Man looked at me through the rearview mirror. I heard that you took the initiative to pursue I. Before that, your boyfriend had just died in a car accident. I also had a heart operation during that time. 4. I slammed the brake. How Man in the back seat was not wearing a seatbelt, and she rushed forward madly and hit the front seat head first. Are you sick? Do you know how to drive? I pointed at the red light. If I can't, you wouldn't have a chance to talk to me now. She angrily fastened her seatbelt and began to touch up her makeup. She finally calmed down during the rest of the ride, arrived at the box. The moment I pushed open the door, everyone's eyes focused on me. They looked me up and down, and then began to laugh at me wantonly. A fake is a fake. When the real thing appears, it's so bad that it's unbearable to look at. There was a burst of laughter. How Man also glanced at me sideways, her eyes full of ridicule. Sujai was also different today. He rarely put away his usual casualness. He wore a white shirt and sat upright in his seat. He deliberately left a seat next to him empty. I usually sit there. Now How Man walked over automatically. I turned around and wanted to leave. Sujai called me. Did you leave? We're going to drink later. You're responsible for sending How Man back. Remembering the last time he fainted from drinking, I looked at his heart and frowned. Don't drink too much. His brothers laughed again. You still don't know your position. How Man is back. Is it your turn to care? You've been a substitute for so long. You really take yourself seriously. I walked to the corner and sat down, took out my phone, and played Candy Crush quietly. It became lively over there, and someone suggested playing Truth or Dare. I don't know if it was a coincidence, or if those people did it on purpose to match How Man and Sujai. The mouth of the bottle was pointed at How Man 3 times in a row. How Man chose Truth or Dare the first 2 times. The first time someone asked her, "Why did you return to China this time?" Man said, "For one person." The whole audience was ambiguous and booing. The second time someone asked her, "Is that person here?" How Man's ears turned red. Yes. Why don't you just report a Yai's ID card? No. The game is to see through but not tell. The third time, How Man wanted to choose Truth or Dare. But she was stopped. You can only choose the same thing twice in a row. And you have to choose another option the third time. How Man could only choose Dare. Choose a boy here to kiss. How Man blushed and turned her head without hesitation to kiss the corner of Sujai's mouth. The picture of the two kissing was frozen. I happened to look up and met Sujai's eyes. I ignored it and switched from Candy Crush to WeChat and found the group where they initiated the vote. How long can Jian Shiyi, the substitute, stay with Ada? 1 day. I vote. Damn, which brother is so cruel that he only voted for 1 day? In the ambiguous atmosphere, someone suddenly complained. The voter is Jian Shiyi. They turned to look at me. I turned off the screen of my phone and looked up. Are there any prizes for winning? Sujai looked at me with a dark face. Jian Shiyi, what do you mean? Won't come to see you starting tomorrow. He gritted his teeth. What right do you have to make this decision? I'm the only one who can't let you come. I pointed at How Man. Then why don't you drive her away? You're just a substitute. Do you deserve it? Yeah. I nodded. Sujai looked ugly. No one present dared to speak. After a while, someone broke the ice. You are really something. You are playing the game well. What are you talking about, Bets? Come on, let's continue playing. They played Truth or Dare again. This time, the bottle mouth was aimed at Sujai. What do you choose? Sujaya's tone was still not good. Big adventure. Can you afford it? Then, girls here, choose one to kiss her. I saw Sujai turn around and hug How Man and kissed her without hesitation. Everyone was clapping and cheering. My stomach gradually burned and I felt nauseous. Then came waves of cramps. I covered my stomach. My face was pale with pain. Finally, I couldn't hold it anymore, so I ran into the bathroom in the box and vomited. The pain in my stomach only increased, and I curled up on the floor of the bathroom in pain, and I was in a trance and had illusions. I seemed to see Su Yu, my Su Yu.